For decades, one particular patch of the Atlantic has had this dark grip on our imagination, the Bermuda Triangle. It's a name that just whispers of vanishing ships and silent planes. But is it really a paranormal mystery? Or is it just a myth that's been retold one too many times? Today, we're going to separate the fact from the fiction.
So, what is really going on out there? Is it some kind of supernatural vortex? Maybe a strange anomaly in the Earth's magnetic field? Or is the truth something far more, well, ordinary? Let's dive in and see what the actual evidence tells us.
You know, the entire legend really just boils down to a handful of iconic stories. We've all heard them, right? The USS Cyclops vanishing way back in 1918, and of course Flight 19, the 5 Navy bombers that disappeared in 1945. These are the absolute cornerstones of the myth. But just how solid are they? Okay, to get to the bottom of this, we first need to know where we're even looking. And honestly, right away, this is where the mystery starts to completely fall apart. This is the image we all picture, isn't it? A nice, clearly defined triangle stretching from Florida over to Bermuda and down to Puerto Rico. It looks so official, like it's a marked danger zone on a real map. But here's the official reality. Just look at the agencies on this slide. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names, nope, doesn't recognize the name. NOAA, the organization that literally maps our oceans, they have no official maps that show its boundaries. And the U.S. Coast Guard, the people actually conducting rescues out there, they don't consider it some kind of special hazard. So the key takeaway here is simple. The Bermuda Triangle doesn't exist on any official map. Period. Okay, so the area itself isn't officially recognized. But what about the famous disappearances? Come on, something must have happened, right? Let's look at the most famous case of all and see what the actual records have to say. Flight 19. The story we usually hear is of planes just being pulled into some swirling vortex. But the reality of the investigation tells a completely different story. The actual U.S. Navy report is all about navigational errors and the search efforts that followed. There's zero, and I mean zero, mention of supernatural forces. The focus was entirely on what could have gone wrong from an operational standpoint. The official cause of loss was listed as unknown, and that one word is what fuels the entire myth. But, in these kind of investigations, unknown doesn't mean supernatural. It just means they couldn't find enough wreckage to be certain. It's an admission that they're missing evidence, not proof that there's a mystery. All right, now for the big one, the claim that an unusually high number of ships and planes disappear here. This is really the core of the entire legend. It's a pretty straightforward question, right? If this area is truly a paranormal hotspot, we should see a spike in the number of disappearances compared to any other heavily trafficked part of the ocean. So, do we? This chart shows you exactly where that perception comes from. Now, this isn't a chart of all accidents, but of the most famous ones that created the legend. Notice the peak? It's the 1940s. We're talking about a time way before modern GPS, advanced communication, and reliable weather forecasting. The entire legend is literally built on incidents from a very, very different technological era. And here is the final word, and it comes straight from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. They put it very clearly. There is no evidence that mysterious disappearances happen more frequently here than in any other heavily traveled part of the ocean. When you actually factor in the sheer amount of traffic, the number of accidents is completely normal. So, if it's not aliens or a time vortex, what is the real explanation for the accidents that do happen? Well, official sources point to a few very real and very powerful culprits. First up, the weather. NOAA confirms this area is basically Hurricane Alley. Most Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes pass right through it. Before modern forecasting, these storms could appear with very little warning and were absolutely powerful enough to take down ships and planes. Second, you've got the Gulf Stream. Now, this is a massive, powerful current, like a river in the ocean, that can trigger sudden violent weather changes. But crucially, its strong current can also scatter wreckage over a huge area very, very quickly, making it seem like a ship or plane simply vanished into thin air. And finally, the most common cause of accidents just about anywhere, human error. As NOAA states, most disasters are a combination of nature and human fallibility. A navigator makes a mistake, a pilot gets disoriented. These are the mundane but deadly realities of travel in a really tough environment. So let's recap. We have an unofficial boundary, no statistical spike in disappearances,
and plenty of natural explanations. So how did this myth get so powerful? Let's break down how a legend like this is even born in the first place.
There's a surprisingly simple formula for creating a myth like this. First, a real tragedy occurs. Second, because of the nature of the ocean, evidence is lost and the official cause gets listed as unknown. And third, storytellers come along and take that unknown and fill in the blanks with something supernatural.
And that retelling often uses a few common tricks. There's evidence inversion, which is just treating the lack of wreckage not as a normal outcome, but as proof of a mystery. Then there's location laundering, where stories of disappearances that happened somewhere else are just moved into the triangle to make it seem more dangerous. And of course, there's the fabrication of dramatic details that never even happened.
So the dark reality of the Bermuda Triangle isn't some supernatural vortex at all. It's a combination of very real ocean dangers, the limits of our ability to find evidence in the deep sea, and of course, our natural human love for a good mystery.
This leaves us with a final thought. The Bermuda Triangle is a great lesson in critical thinking. It makes you wonder, what other famous mysteries would completely fall apart if we just took the time to go and look at the original sources?